I earned my wings in November of '91 in the A4 at Meridian, Mississippi, and it was, the airplane was originally designed as a light attack, a very fast, simple light attack aircraft for the Vietnam era. So when you think about an attack aircraft like that, you're thinking low level, high speed. With the Delta wings, it was a very fast airplane for its era, handled very well. It was not an airplane that was particularly optimized for, say, like high altitude, high angle of attack, air combat maneuvering and stuff. But as the training, that was a big part of our training. So it was a great aircraft in that if you were going to go on to fighters, you had to really be attentive to flying the aircraft. It had these leading edge slats that deployed dynamically. You had one slat deploy and the other didn't. You'd get some pretty radical roll departures. So you had to fly the airplane with a great deal of care. So I think that prepared us very well for going on to the F-14.
Didn't the TA-4 as well have what was it they called the clown jets now for the Hawk T-45? Was it all orange and white paint on your time?
Yes, well, yeah, the TA versions, the two seat, the TA versions were all, or yeah, the orange and white. I never heard them called the clown airplanes, but they're somewhat appropriate. Um, but yeah, definitely the high visibility paint schemes for the TA4s. The other thing that a lot of people may not realize about the A4, and I think one of the things if you watch movies of flying movies and things like that, and even going to air shows sometimes, it's hard to get a great sense of how large or how small an airplane is. And the A4 was an incredibly small airplane. Now I'm 5 foot 9 inches tall. Right now I weigh about 177 pounds. Kind of medium height, medium build kind of guy. I weighed a little bit less back then, but not much. Um, but in the A4 and the TA4 sitting in the front seat, it was difficult even for a guy of my build. And I'm not, particularly broad shoulders, American football player, no, none of that or anything. That as you lowered the canopy, I actually had to turn sideways to get the canopy to completely clear my shoulders. And then you would turn back once the canopy was down. And one of the lessons you learned flying the airplane was we had a pocket on the side of our flight suits, and you put ballpoint pens in there for writing and whatnot, was you had to take the pens out of your pocket when you were flying the A4 because you would turn, and then as soon as you started maneuvering the airplane, inevitably one of the pens would break. So you would see all of us students, all the new guys walking around, and everybody had the one flight suit, but it looked like a big bruise on their flight suit from where they'd broken the ballpoint pens.
And was it like a good dogfighter?
Not particularly, just because of the Delta wings. Keep in mind, no trainer is going to be afterburning and whatnot. They're all fairly highly wing loaded, but it was very good. It was good for getting the concepts down. It was an airplane that if you unloaded it and went to zero angle of attack and you weren't having any kind of slat issues, or it add energy pretty well in the airplane. And then if you flew it with some care and didn't just bleed all the energy off the plane, you could actually do pretty well. Now the Top Gun and the dedicated adversary squadrons at the time, now they were flying the A4M, which was the single seat A4, and it had the big hump on the back, and that had the bigger engine in it. I want to say that those were around the 11,000 pound thrust class, and an airplane that small to have an engine of that kind of thrust, even though non-afterburning, was a tremendously capable airplane. And then you go put that airplane in the hands of a Top Gun or a dedicated adversary. Also, at the time, the Blue Angels were flying the A4 Mike. So, if you had it with the big engine in it, single seat, in the hands of these very capable senior aviators, yeah, it was a phenomenal fighter. It would give us fits even going out in the F-14 early on, and having to go. You'd go out there against a guy who had 1,000 hours in the F-14, and now he's got several hundred hours in the A4. And we're out there with 50 hours in the airplane. And we had our hands full. with it. So it certainly could be a very capable dogfighter. The T version with the smaller engine, the 2 seats, and we always flew with 2 tanks on it. Many of the adverse squadrons flew them absolutely clean, no tanks, no rails, no nothing else. That was a hot rod. That was an airplane that you showed up to the merge with one of those, and you had to respect it. If you showed up and got lazy, he was going to make sure you had a long day.
Yeah, is the M version the one Jester and Viper flew in the Top Gun movies? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, that was. It's kind of funny because those jets were all still at Miramar when I got there, and actually the gentleman who was the operations officer, if he was when they shot the movie, was shoot, gosh, I think he was a 3-star admiral when he retired.
Oh.
And he was actually the captain of the USS Lincoln when I was deployed on the Lincoln in 1995. Rat Willard, there's a famous video of him on YouTube where I think he's 2 or 3-star admiral at the time. This was toward the end of his career, and he was being interviewed by Congress, and this famous congressman, Hank Johnson. Just the man is nobody knows how he got in Congress, and nobody seems to know how they're going to get rid of him. So there's a video you can actually go Google this if you ever want to, or look it up on YouTube. It defies reality. So here's Will sitting at the table, service dress blues, the chest covered with medals, absolutely legendary U.S. Navy F-14 fighter pilot, and an all around good guy. And he's sitting at this table, having to be very serious, representing the United States Navy before Congress. And Hank Johnson starts asking him about the island of Guam. Now, Admiral, I understand Guam is about 21 miles long and about this many miles wide. And Admiral Willard, oh yes, sir, very, very polite, to Congressman Johnson. Now, Admiral, we have concerns that the island of Guam is going to capsize. And Rat sits there with an absolute straight face and tries to address this man like professional, which I know deep down he wants to run up and probably choke him. But it's one of the funniest videos I've ever seen. It's just funny because I know the guy. But he was the OPSO at Top Gun when they did the movie. He flew in quite a bit of it, and basically the directors and whatnot would go to Rat, hey, this is kind of what we're looking for. How would this look and everything? And one of the funny things about the scenes in Top Gun, there's no CGI. That's not like the second Top Gun, which is, in my opinion, basically a cartoon. But in the first one, a lot of those flying scenes, they're actually doing those in formation with a Learjet that has doors open and panels taken off,
Yes.
and guys strapped into these things, high resolution cameras. Well, the problem is to get these engagements all within the frame, they have to take place very close. Yeah. So it's to an aviator, a lot of the scenes look kind of ridiculous, but the flying that they did in it was really exceptional. And so the A4 was those were still there. And then when I was there, they also had the N model of the F-16, the small mouth kind of bastardized Block 25, Block 30 aggressor F-16.
The A4, well, the Skyhawk was a good training platform in your time to go on to, the frontline guys.
It really was, because it was a great attack airplane. We could drop bombs off of it. We could strafe with it. I mean, the air-to-air stuff, it was kind of handy. I think it made it very useful for the Navy, that the guys that had the patience and the actual aviation skills to ultimately go on to fighters. It was a pretty good filter for that.